I'm back. It's been a while, but this video was suggested to me, so I figure, why not? You know?
Have you ever seen one of these little helicopter toys that you give them a spin and the thing just flies away? I loved these things growing up, so I got my kids some, although I think I played with them more than my kids
I think I
did.
played with
Which
those
got me
like once or
wondering, how high
twice.
could you make one of these things actually go? And being a competitive male with access to CNC machines, I took that idea way too far, making basically the Formula One version
Oh my
of one
god.
of these helicopters.
What?
It looks pretty different, but it works the same way. You spin it up and let her rip. Although, spoiler alert, I did not find out how high you can make one of these go, because I made a gigantic design error with this thing. Let's just say it's really good at uncontrolled flight into terrain.
Oh gosh.
But even though I
Imagine
didn't achieve my goal,
you just didn't know where it was gonna land, and you're standing in a random spot, and it just hits you.
it's still a really cool helicopter, chock full of cool mechanics, interesting physics, and egregious design errors. So join me as we see how far we can push a cheap novelty made for children. These helicopters are really simple. You spin them between your hands, which stores up kinetic energy in the propeller, which blows air downwards, generating thrust, and they fly up.
And obviously, if you spin them faster, they're going to go higher. But there's actually
How
a
do you
pretty
determine
firm
which
limit
hand
to
moves
how
out
fast
and
you
which
can
one
spin
moves
these things.
towards
If you
you?
think about the tip of the propeller spinning around, it's tracing
It
out a
doesn't
circle
matter.
really fast. And if you spin it fast enough, you can make it go supersonic, which would make a sonic boom, which is super cool. But it also makes an enormous amount of drag, and the propeller kind of stops working at that point. But even if you spin it below that limit, it doesn't do nearly as well, at least as I would have thought.
Because air drag increases like this.
That was a
Spinning 10
clean
times
arc, by the
faster
way.
is about 100 times the drag. Think about it this way. The spinning propeller has a certain amount of energy, like a gas tank, which it can use to go up or to fight air drag. Spinning it faster gives it more fuel, but it ends up spending 99% of that fighting air drag.
So what if we ran the propeller a lot slower, where it's going to be more efficient because it's not fighting air resistance, and instead we spin a flywheel really fast?
The propeller would be spending a lot less energy overcoming air drag, but it would also have a lot less energy stored in it. But we'd make up for this with a fast spinning flywheel, which lets us store a lot of energy without all the air drag of a propeller. I ran some simulations of a fairly
For some reason, when he said the flywheel, I thought he was gonna put that wheel on top of the propeller right here, right? Because if it was three blades, then it would help with it going up a little bit faster and higher and whatnot. But I totally forgot that he was talking about making it over here.
store a lot of energy
Whoops.
without all the air drag of a propeller. I ran some simulations of a fairly slow propeller, a propeller at the supersonic limit, and then a propeller augmented with a flywheel, which does this. It should be able to go about 5 times higher.
But there's a really big problem with this design that we're going to have to solve. We're going to have a big propeller with a flywheel attached to it, which is basically a chunk of steel. If it goes way up into the sky, it's going to run out of energy and then just fall down like a brick, which is super dangerous, and it'll also pretty much destroy everything when it hits the ground. My original plan was to have a parachute that it would deploy when it topped out, but if you think about it, this
The
thing is going
timing
to be
would be
spinning
difficult.
and doing who knows what. It's hard to imagine the parachute not getting tangled up and everything, and it still slamming into the ground just with a parachute wrapped around it. But I really wanted this to work. I went pretty far down the rabbit hole of a pyrotechnically deployed parachute, basically shooting the parachute out of a cannon so it gets really far away from the blades quickly, but you can still imagine scenarios where it wouldn't work. Like
True.
if it was tumbling and it shot it straight down, the helicopter would just fall into the parachute. So I decided to go with another strategy, which is a lot harder than the parachute, but I think it could work.
Let's go back to our fuel tank analogy. It takes energy to make the propeller go up, but this process works in reverse. When the helicopter tops out and runs out of energy, you can reverse the angle of the blades, and the air blowing past them as the helicopter descends will spin them like a windmill.
He's gonna try to switch the blades mid-air. Is that what I'm understanding? Hold on, one more time.
When the helicopter tops out and runs out of energy, you can reverse the angle of the blades, and the air blowing past them as the helicopter descends will spin them like a windmill,
What?
which refills our kinetic energy fuel tank. And then right before we hit the ground, we could change the angle of the blades back to normal, which generates downward thrust with the energy we just stored up, which slows the helicopter down so that it can land. The downside is that it's hard to do, and we have to make blades that can change their angle.
And I didn't come up with this. It's called an auto-rotation, and it's what real helicopters do if their engine goes out.
In theory,
They
we
can
now
rotate
land
on
it,
their own?
but unfortunately the design still doesn't work.
So the flywheel is going to be trying to turn the blades like this, but there's an equal and opposite reaction that's going to try to spin the flywheel this way.
Hmm.
But that won't actually happen because the flywheel is going to be acting like a gyroscope.
Basically, when you spin something really fast, it resists any changes to its orientation. So there will be a torque trying to twist the flywheel, but it's going to resist.
This seems like a good thing because we want the blades to spin, not the flywheel. But the fact that we're trying to spin the flywheel and it's resisting will make something very non-intuitive happen that is easier to show than explain. So I made this little thing with a motor spinning a flywheel. It's sort of like a mini version of the helicopter with a flywheel sticking out of the side. So I'm going to spin the flywheel up and watch what happens when I try to turn it.
Excuse me.
Trying to twist it this way results in a torque that twists it this way. And I'm not going to get into the
It's not
specifics
good.
of why this happens, but it's called precession, and it's really bad because it'll just make my helicopter flip over and crash. But there's a trick that we can do. If we put a second flywheel on the other side of the helicopter,
Counters
spinning
it.
in the opposite direction, it'll precess in the opposite direction and cancel out the twisting on the helicopter.
Works as a counter.
The last big question is how to connect the flywheels to the propeller. I decided to use gears, but they're kind of weird because the flywheels are at a 90-degree angle to the propeller. And here's how they work. Imagine you have the shaft for the flywheel and the propeller. And then you draw two imaginary lines to where they intersect. Then you make two cones going from that point to each shaft. The cones will touch, and if one spins, so does the other one. If we looked at this from the side, it would look something like this. Then, if we delete the tips of the cones and add some gear teeth, we have the gears that we're going to make. These are called bevel gears, and I need them to be very light, so I have to make them
Yes,
myself
that way it can
and
go
every
up,
other
right?
part of the helicopter. So let's do it. The gears start as a blank cut out on the water jet. Then they go into the 5-axis CNC, which can turn the part in any direction, which makes parts like this a lot easier. Here's the newborn gear before his teeth came in. I'm using a special cutter with the shape of the gear tooth in it to cut each tooth one at a time. That turned out a lot better than I was expecting. It's pretty much the same process for the flywheels, but overall I just had to turn on the tunes and crank out a bunch of parts because unfortunately the entire helicopter is metal. I'm pretty sure I used every metal working machine in my shop on this.
Wait. If it's metal, how is he gonna get it to fly high enough? I mean, he should be using lighter equipment, right? I'm just guessing, and I'm trying to figure it out before he chose the final product and how it works. But you think, I mean, metals can be heavy, but what is he gonna do to trim off that excess weight?
And now the fun part, putting it all together and seeing it not work. Oh yeah, I waited so long to see this thing spin.
Finally, all the parts are made. I got them put together, and it looks really cool. The most important thing is the rotor head and the blades.
Which are on a pivot, so we can change their angle by pushing and pulling on them. And this is kind of tricky because we have to be able to do it while they're spinning. The secret is this little servo on the bottom, which is stationary when the blades are spinning, but it has a little control rod that goes up through the main shaft and can push and pull on the blades to control their angle.
But when
And
does
then the
it
lower part
figure
is
out
designed
when to change it?
entirely around the bevel gears. They have a 5-to-1 ratio, meaning the flywheels will spin 5 times faster than the blades. And they were tricky to make because they're going to be spinning up to 24,000 RPM, so they have to be balanced really well. And then the space in the middle holds all the electronics for controlling it, measuring altitude, all that stuff.
So I just finished installing all the electronics, but I was looking at the flywheels, and it occurred to me that I'm an idiot. Remember how I was excited
Okay.
that the two flywheels will cancel out each other's precession? Do you know what else they cancel out? Their gyroscopic effect as well.
Which this design
What?
depends on. The flywheels spinning the blades forward will make an equal and opposite reaction that spins the body of the helicopter backwards.
If I try to fly it, the body's gonna start spinning backwards at 1,000 RPM. It's gonna start shedding parts. It's gonna crash. I guarantee it's not gonna work.
I have no idea how I missed this. They usually do a demo of this on the first day of physics class. They even talk about it in the physics
I will be
book
honest,
got
I've
for my
never
kids.
had this demo on the first day of physics class, like ever. If it was exciting as this as he's trying to make it, I would have paid more attention just a little bit. But I did not have this demo in physics class. You know when the guy holds the thing and he does this and he spins one way and he does this and he spins the other way. Like I've seen videos of that, but I've never done it. I should try it
when
one
they were
day.
babies. I think I
Honestly.
just had tunnel vision thinking about precession and didn't look 2 inches to the right.
And the right thing to do would be to redesign this, but we've put too much time into this. I think it's time to embrace the sunk cost fallacy. We're gonna let it flow through us, and we're gonna transition to a different kind of working called hacking.
So
Hacking.
here's the plan. Airplanes have these things on their wings called control surfaces, which move like this. When air flows over it, it's redirected, which makes a force that pushes the wing down. If I move this one up and this one down, it'll generate forces like this that will twist the wing.
Mhm.
What if we stuck something like this on the bottom of our helicopter? We could use the airflow from the blades to twist the wing and keep the body from spinning. Let's find out. And I know this is ugly and just kind of bolted on, but remember, we're hacking. Here it is all together, and the airflow from the blades will go down over these control surfaces and hopefully generate enough torque to keep things from spinning.
It's
And I'm
not
just gonna
hacking,
gloss
it's
over the
using your
second wing
resources.
because it just isn't important right now. You can probably guess what I'm trying to do.
I think we're at the point where we just have to try it. But before we can do that, we need something to get these flywheels spinning really fast.
This turned out to be a bit more complicated than I was expecting, and it kind of turned into its own whole project.
And the result is this dock thing, which the helicopter sits on, like this. There's a motor on the side with a special coupling to interface with the flywheel. And then there's a little computer that controls how fast it spins everything up. And it will slowly ramp the flywheels up faster and faster. And when everything's going fast enough, it releases a trigger, which quickly pulls the motor out of the way so the helicopter can fly without hitting anything.
Okay.
It communicates with the helicopter over this little breakaway cable.
The little computer tells the helicopter that it's good to fly, and if it's flying autonomously, it'll take off to the heavens, or I can start flying it with an RC controller.
This is like crazy smart
So it's
stuff
time
here,
to do some
by the
testing,
way.
but I really don't want to. I've just been putting it off because I'm too afraid of what's going to happen. But I came up with a scheme that's relatively safe. I'm going to have the helicopter held down with these guides. They'll kind of let it fly, but they'll keep it from tipping or doing anything totally crazy. I have it set up so that when I press this button, the helicopter will spin up. And I've got this piece of polycarbonate to cower behind because it just seems like a lot of ways
Just
it can
in
finally
case.
disassemble itself directly into my face. So let's see what happens. There's something really weird happening here. I can only get it to like 30% of the speed that I want. And even at that level, our motor is completely maxed out. We're melting wires, burning up speed controls.
Oh shoot.
My guess is that there's too much friction in the system. So I swapped the bearing grease for light oil, which makes them super low friction, which didn't seem to make a difference. Then I spent ages trying to adjust how the gears fit together, which didn't seem to make a difference. Then I
Wow,
gave up
okay.
and just got a bigger motor, which didn't seem to make a difference. And then I was thinking maybe the coupling between the motor and the flywheel was binding up, so I redesigned it, but it didn't seem to make a difference. Then I gave up again and got an even bigger motor, which didn't seem to make a
Oh
difference.
my god.
And then it finally clicked. It's the flywheels. So obvious. I don't know how I didn't see this. So as this little flat part of the flywheel spins around, it's pushing air out of the way. And I just ran the numbers on this, and it's astonishing. To spin the flywheels at 20,000 RPM, it should take about 20 horsepower, which is a lot of horsepower. Now that we know the problem at least, it's pretty easy to fix. I'm sealing them up with a super light heat shrink film. There's no more big flat surface that we're dragging through the air. It's
You
just a
sealed it
smooth
off,
cylinder.
okay.
Think of spinning a paddle wheel in water versus a smooth cylinder. It's way better. So let's see if it works.
3, 2, 1, liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo.
It is finally flying.
So he can
At least
actually
an
fly
inch,
it now, huh?
But it's lifting itself under its own weight. Although I can't really test the control surfaces with these retainers, so I'm going to take those off,
Oh
We're gonna put
no.
on training gear, which is kind of like training wheels for a helicopter. It makes it harder to tip it over. I'm just gonna fly it manually with an RC transmitter. Here we go. Throttle over.
I mean, it's not
Ooh,
bad.
No,
It's decent.
man, I am
First test
this
ain't bad.
close to just destroying everything. Thank goodness I have the training gear on there. They are really earning their salary.
Let's try a couple more times.
You know what the issue is getting tangled in the wires.
The helicopter's not failing to fly. I'm reversing the pitch of the blades to generate upward thrust and shove
Oh.
it down onto the ground because I can tell it's going to crash.
So I've got the control surfaces pegged all the way trying to turn the helicopter left, and they're just being overpowered by the torque trying to spin it right. I don't think
Oh.
there's anything this wing is going to be able to do. So I think we basically just have to try to make a bigger wing.
We're doing the same thing we did before, just long.
I think this is about the biggest wing that we're going to be able to fit into this thing.
And longer is better because it's going to collect more airflow from the blades, which will also be going faster because we're near the blade tips. And it will generate more torque because it has more leverage.
I hope this works because it's pretty much our last chance. So here we go.
I mean, he's adding more weight to it. It shouldn't be able to lift off, right? If he's adding more weight to it like that, he should be able to have a stronger motor on there, so that way. It can lift
Come
up
on.
to the air.
The more lift you generate, the more it torques the body of the helicopter. So I'm giving it just enough thrust to barely lift the helicopter, which is the best possible case, and the wing is still being overpowered by the twist.
So why can't, when he's doing this, when he's trying to make it go high, like on the edge of this brace, what's a better angle? Hold on. So this brace, right? If he's got a computer or a chip that says, "Hey, when you got enough torque or whatever it is," I'm pretty sure he said torque. I'm not stupid. I'm paying attention. I swear. It'll release it. But why can't he have another computer back here, like on something to where, as soon as it's ready, this will break off and this will fall back a little bit. That way it can go up because it might be an issue there. It might be. I don't know. I'm just kind of guessing. Noise. The noise is
Come
insane.
on.
The more lift you generate, the more it torques the body of the helicopter. So I'm giving it just enough thrust to barely lift the helicopter, which is the best possible case, and the wing is still being overpowered by the twist.
Man, that sucks. I just don't think we're going to be able to solve this spinning issue without a complete redesign and rebuild. So let's tentatively call this part 1, but we're still not done here.
I mean, we've flown it, what, 6 inches? We got to take this thing out and just go for it.
I'll get the wife to come out. Hopefully she'll even be impressed if she doesn't realize how messed up it is. It's midnight right now, so tomorrow. Doing it live.
All right, 6 a.m. and I'm riding my bike because I thought it'd be interesting to show you what I do every day. My routine is, I think, the most important thing that I do. It always starts with exercise, and it is insane how good this is.
What's
for
your
my
morning
brain.
routine?
Once I'm done with that, I sit down and spend 30 minutes learning something new. And it is crazy how much you can learn if you do this consistently. It's how I've picked up a lot of my skills, and it's also why I'm a huge fan of this video's sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is a tool that's
He really
designed
put
to
that
help
in
you
there.
learn
He flowed it
technical
pretty
stuff,
easily.
and it works really well. It's why I've been talking about it for years. It'll take a technical subject like AI and present it as a series of interactive lessons, which have you working with real data and solving actual
It
problems.
is what it
So
is.
you're learning by doing, which is just the best way to learn. And it's so much more than AI. They have literally thousands of lessons across math, science, data analysis, programming, all kinds of stuff. And it'll take these complex subjects where it's hard to know where even to begin and break them down into a series of
blinding.
bite-sized lessons that build one on top of the
Too
other,
bright.
which is really good for learning a bit every day. So you can probably see why I like this so much. And it is shocking how the knowledge compounds. It doesn't feel like you're doing that much day to day, but do it for a month and suddenly you know calculus. It's crazy. So if you want to learn a
Calculus?
bunch of interesting technical stuff that's going to level up your
I was good in
problem-solving
math, but
abilities,
calculus I
or
sucked
just
with.
maybe relearn the math you forgot from school, you should check out Brilliant. You can try it for free for 30 days. Just go to brilliant.org/stuff made here. You can also click the link in the description or scan the QR code, and you also get 20% off an annual
Make sure you like
premium
and subscribe to the
subscription.
channel. Then I'll
That's
plug
it.
my own thing in
Thank you,
there.
Brilliant, for
Like
sponsoring
and
this
subscribe to
video,
this channel.
and thank you for taking the time to check it out.
That way I know you like the content as well.
All right, the time
'Cause
has
I'm just
come
watching
to
what I
give
like.
this thing the beans.
So what do you think this thing is going to do?
I think it'll fly up really high and be awesome.
That's what you think.
That's what I think. And then it'll land and pieces will break off.
This pup's gotta fly.
Man, I'm nervous. This is a lot of work that's about to be probably destroyed. All right, hit it. Man.
Hasn't released yet.
Baby's purring.
Oh.
Watch out!
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it took off.
Watch out!
So what happened?
Well, I don't think the training gear really helped. 2.7 pounder. All right, scale of 1 to 10.
With what? 10 being
Scale of 1 to
awesome?
10.
I'd say a 10. That landing,
She's so supportive.
that's a 10.
It was a good landing. I don't know what I'd call
It was
landing.
just really satisfying to finally see it go.
Yeah.
And then such a epic fail.
Oh, it was a nice try.
It was good.
It's a nice try. I think I know how to fix it, so part 2. Check back in a while.
No. That's kind of crazy. This thumbnail right here. I want to know if it flies. I don't know if when he's gonna do another one, because this one was like this one got suggested to me the other day, and we uploaded this like maybe a month ago, 2 months ago. Oh my gosh! If he does another one, I will actually watch that one too. So if anyone knows, tell me what is the problem with what he could have done there, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it and figure it out. But if someone else knows, let me know.